Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to DevChatter. My name is Brendan, for anyone who doesn't know, and this here is DevChatter. Well, actually that's Visual Studio, but I think you get the point. This channel is DevChatter, and today we are going to write some C# code, because that is what we are wont to do here. First off, I'd like to thank C# Fritz for that auto host that we just received. So if you were lurking around in C# Fritz's chat and you suddenly hear my voice speaking to you, don't worry, you're not going crazy. But you are about to see some C# and .NET Core code being written on stream. So welcome everyone. Just have a couple of things I'm going to set up before we get started. The first one is I'm going to get our chatbot into the channel with us. So we run our chatbot live on the stream straight from whatever the latest version is we're working on, so we're brave like that. It does mean the bot will occasionally break on us, but that's what you get when you run code straight out of Visual Studio live on a stream. It's good stuff. We have fun with it. Karma Lightwing. I did not get a haircut, but I did push my hair to the side instead of having it come over my face. But thank you for noticing. Okay, so the couple of things that I want to talk about at the beginning of this stream. So I mentioned, for anyone who was looking at the title, that we were going to be doing a few things today. The first one is we're going to be writing C# code. We're going to be doing some programming exercises. I want to continue the programming exercise that we were doing in the last stream. So if you were here last time, awesome, we're going to continue that. If you were not, don't worry, we didn't, we started it last stream. It's a pretty simple program. I'll explain what it is so you'll get what we're working on, and we'll go ahead and get started with that. Before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple of things. So I got a little bit of feedback from one of our viewers who did actually respond to my help wanted request for feedback on the pull request we sent in. So let's take a look at a couple of things that he found. So first off, he noticed, I'll start from the bottom. He had a question about organizing our services and essentially noticed that we have a big list of service registrations and said, hey, shouldn't we be doing those in methods? To which I respond, yes, we should be doing those in methods, but in fact I want to go a step further, which is why we didn't do it yet. So I want to make it a little bit nicer than that, but we probably should have done the messages to begin with, like he suggested. So that was probably an oversight on our part, but that's fine. He noticed that we had some code that was commented out that we should probably just delete. So I am going to start out by deleting that code. So we're going to open up our startup CS, and in here we're going to find the commented out code that he noticed, and we're just going to delete it. So in general, I recommend whenever you find that you've got some commented out code you no longer need, just nuke it, get rid of it, goodbye. So we had actually kept that out for a little bit because of the fact that we needed to re-implement those ones. They're the ones that didn't transfer over nicely, so we actually had them committed as commented out code for a few versions until we eventually replaced them. When we did that replacement, we should have gone back and deleted the comment. So good catch on that one. Evening, S&B. Welcome. Okay, so that's the first change there. Let's go to our bot. So there's our change. So we're going to say remove the remove commented out code. And yes, I am going to commit that as a single commit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the whole set up at once that resolves the issues you notice. It's 2 a.m. in the morning where you are. Well, that's pretty good. Oh, sorry, I am modifying the bot right now, so S&B, if it doesn't respond with some commands, that's why. Okay. So next thing that I want to get in here is, and we just started, so you haven't missed much yet. So he noticed some commented out code, which we have now deleted. The next one is just method ordering he noticed on our bot admin. So I'm going to open up bot admin, cshtml.cs, and which thing? He was coming in property after the public method. So this one down here he was saying, shouldn't this be up above here? And he is correct. That is a little bit easier for people to find it if properties are listed before you get into the methods. So just a convention within the C# and .NET community, that's certainly not a requirement. It does not make any functional difference to the code. Sorry, Crimson, the bot's currently not running, so that command won't work. Okay, so we're going to call this moving the property of the method for consistency. So the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that any other developer that comes in here gets what they expect. So they're going to expect to see a list of properties on an object before they see the methods. As I said, it doesn't functionally make a difference, but you want other developers that show up to understand what's going on, to see it, and get their understanding as quickly as possible. So the next thing, he noticed we had a typo, so I'm going to jump in there. We're going to get that typo real quick. So here we go. We're going to this code, and we did question start. So I think we meant to do question start. There we go. So now that typo is fixed. So we're going to say fix that typo. And then the next thing, what's the purpose of the delay? I'm going to look. I'm not sure what the purpose of that delay is. And then anything, but shouldn't the private fields be before the public ones? And yes, that is also correct. So let's go to currency update. So this is another what other developers will expect kind of thing. So it doesn't really make that big a difference, but essentially he's suggesting that we should have our interval right here below those ones, so the private ones are first. But again, not a huge deal. Nocta, welcome, hi. And hey, Crimson. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so we got that running, so this is just another reorder. So this is move public field below private fields. And then the last thing is he asked about that delay. Where is this delay? It is in bot main, I assume? Yeah. Okay, so inside of bot main, we have a delay. He's saying, okay, let's see what it is and why it's in here. Followable system, head of followable system, await task delay. That's a good question. I am not sure why that's in there. It's delaying for a single millisecond. Okay. We could just await a completed task, send back a completed task, call it done, which makes me wonder why this is a sync to begin with, so it can call some other things. To be honest, I'm not sure. I would need to dig into that further than I want to do on today's stream. So let's do task.delay changed to task.completed task. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that for now and push them up. And we'll see what we get out of that. So I'm going to say not sure on this one. I'll need to investigate further if there was a reason at all. And change this to a task.completed task for now, since the 1 millisecond delay was pointless. We may be able to remove the task completely. So I'm thinking we might be able to just not even have a task, but I'll need to investigate that before I do that, and I don't want to dig that far in when that's not the plan for this stream. So Machiavello, if you watch this stream, I don't know if you're in here right now or if you catch this on video, that's my explanation on that one. And I think I got everything else. So, since that has been pushed up, I am going to do this. So this was my pull request that I've got here that I wanted feedback on. Then, let's go back here. The last thing I want to talk about before we jump over into our programming exercises. Hang on. I have to start to make my own bot, and I already have a question. Is there an easy way to make a spam filter on command so users can't just spam commands? Nocta, my recommendation would be to create some kind of a cooldown. There's a couple of ways you could do that. You could build the cooldown into the commands itself, or you could build it into your command handling engine. Either one is an acceptable approach. Now, I wouldn't actually put it on the command handling engine if you go that route. What I would do is I would give the command handling engine a cooldown tracker or something like that that can keep track of how frequently that stuff is called. So it's basically tracking when someone was using it. And I would just do that in memory to start off with, because if you're restarting your bot, yeah, your cooldowns are going to reset and you wouldn't have that, but it's pretty easy. And if your main goal is avoiding them getting spammed in chat, then that works pretty well. So that would be my suggestion there. Till, welcome. And Worldwake, welcome. Some kind of cooldown on a per-user basis. Yeah, S&B. Yep, that is exactly it. So Nocta, if you want an example of how to do that, you could look into our code base. We have, I believe, a command tracker class inside of our chatbot. So take a look at that. Worldwake, you ask for the user emails and have them do phone verification. Yeah, there you go. Carmelite Wing, you were trying to close that window, then I realized it was on stream. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that, Carmelite Wing. Yeah, you can't close the windows on my stream. That would be bad for me if you could. Okay, so the things I want to talk about. I added a few issues to our stream info repository on GitHub. The items that we have on here, so previously I had created a Learn to Program series, which is something that we're going to be doing, and today is the last day for voting in my poll for when we are going to do that stream, so let me go ahead and link that if anyone wants to get in a last minute vote on that poll. I think it's still going, but today is the last day. So I just linked it in the chat. We are doing a poll to decide which day of our normal streaming days are the best ones for people who want to attend my Learn to Code using C# streams. And for anyone who doesn't know, these are going to be like beginner level stuff. So even if you're not like a programmer, or even if you're just new to C#, these should be approachable as like follow-along exercises for pretty much anyone, and they should still be fun for you if you are an intermediate or more advanced developer. But what you'll want to do is more than what we plan for. So as we're building this exercise, you might do it in a special way. You might use a special part of the language. You might make it more interesting for yourself and give yourself a challenge. Likely what I'm going to do, based on these results, unless I suddenly get some significant change, is I will try to do most of them on Mondays and Saturdays. So that does mean that some people won't be able to catch all of them. But again, these are all going to be recorded, so you can catch the videos if you do miss those, but it's probably best to be there live so you can ask questions if you run into any problems. So it'll probably be those, and then if we do get some more votes on either the Tuesday or the Thursday, then that would be the third one. So most likely I'll do like an alternating back and forth kind of a thing, given these results, but I'll probably favor Monday. So we'll see on that one. But either way, get me your votes and we'll get that one set up. I've got some ideas for some exercises and things like that. If people have specific topics that they want me to cover in relation to beginner level programming stuff or just programming in general, go ahead and put comments on this issue and let me know what you're interested in seeing, and we'll use that as the place for those kinds of ideas. So let me know what you think, because I'm really looking forward to doing those. Then I also added a couple of suggestions for future streams. An application security stream a PowerShell stream, and I want to do a stream where we go over the different, they're called SOLID principles, and that's an acronym, so SOLID, and I do want to do that one, and I think it'll be a fun one. I've got some ideas, and I've done SOLID in a lot of workshops before, so I've done presentations on it, workshops on it, user groups. I've done lots of stuff on it, so it should be fun. I may bring in guests, maybe not, we'll see. Let me see, what did you guys say in chat? Have you guys tried the new Chrome UI? It's incredible. I have not messed with it. If there's new Chrome UI that's not anything other than what I'm just using here. Karma Lightwing. You don't like it, huh? What about my precious Google ecosystem? Oh, I can has Jonas. Tabs versus spaces. I am not going to discuss tabs versus spaces, but there is a short answer to that one, and Karma Lightwing is wrong. The answer is tabs or spaces, but never both. That is the correct answer. You can fight whichever way you want on tabs or spaces, but please don't use both. So you all may notice these little blue dots. They're kind of hard to tell, but I've got these blue dots over here that I can turn off. Oh, the blue dots are gone. So I actually have visible white space turned on because that lets me, I use it to see some things, like if I had a line that looked like this, for example, I could see that was all white space, but, I don't want that, so I can get rid of it. I can see if someone left a bunch of white space at the end of their line, and I can just clean that up. I can also see if some jerk put, like, a line of tabs in my file that's full of spaces, because this would show up as arrows instead of dots for the tabs. And as I said, I don't mind if you use tabs, but please don't use tabs and spaces in the same file, because then when you get someone that customizes their, like, tab spacing, they'll see, like, this line is over here, and, this other line's over here, and, like, everything's messed up because you mix tabs and spaces. So don't do it. Till, if you download Chrome Canary and enable the use all upcoming UI features. Oh, okay, Till. That could be pretty cool. I have not messed with that. Why don't you use some kind of auto formatter? Oh, yeah, no. I do, but the trick is that like someone can commit it like that, and then it can get just messed up on GitHub, for example. And that's not to say that you couldn't just tell everybody, hey, do that. And I've also like opened up projects where they had it like that. And part of the problem is if their code base is already like that, when my auto formatter comes in, it looks like I'm modifying lines when I'm not really changing those files. I'm just, I want to tabify or untabify everything. So it happens. And then don't most programs just convert tabs to spaces anyway? Yeah, Till. A lot of them do that. And it also comes down to what you have configured. So, for example, in my Visual Studio, whenever I hit my tab key, it just does 4 spaces. And thank you for the subscription, Jonas. Please make sure to spam your DevChatter hype emotes if you got them, because we have a new sub in the chat. And yes, nowadays editor config and PR style guideline change. Yes, exactly. So we can do all those kinds of things. It's nice. We actually do have an editor config in our project right here, and we don't have a style check on our pull requests, actually, which maybe we should, but we don't have it yet. So I didn't even know using spaces was a thing at the beginning. Yeah, Karma Lightwing. And the problem is, in a lot of programs, you can't even tell you have a difference unless you do like visible white space. So that's why I turn those on. It's a good indicator. And then the other nice thing is if I open up a new project, so I open up someone else's code and I see that, I'm immediately like, ooh, what kind of other formatting things do I have to watch out for? I need to be careful in this code base. They didn't even keep consistent with the tabs and the spaces. So, yes, exactly. Yes, mixing tabs and spaces in Python scripts. I have seen that exact thing, and that is one of the worst ones. Because Python is white space sensitive. So for anyone who doesn't know that, that means that in Python, where you put your white space actually matters. Okay. I'm going to let GitHub for, no, not GitHub for Windows, GitHub Desktop restart and upgrade itself. And now I am going to turn on the bot. So congratulations, everybody. We're about to have a chat bot again. New feature of Git. Check out spaces, commit tabs, as with... Yeah. Hi, Ken has Jonas. I believe you can actually... I think you can do that with a Git attributes file. You might be able to. I don't know if you can out of the box, but I'm betting there's a way to do that. Hep8 says use spaces, that's why I use spaces. I will say whatever one you prefer, that's the one to go with. Now the weird thing is, for anybody in here that's in C# Fritz's streams also, he does 2 spaces as his indentation, which is also very different. So, but again, you know, as long as you're consistent with your styling, it really doesn't matter what you do with that, because it all comes down to preference anyway. Okay, so here is what we are working on today. Yeah, I know, Till. He does a 2-space indent. I swear he's just trying to mess with us. I don't think he is, but it sure seems like it. Whoops. I meant to do this, and then I wanted to our Dallas Kata catalog and go to the RPG combat. For anyone that wants to see what we are working on, I'm going to link that in chat right there. Also keep in mind that, so I haven't pushed this up yet, but all the code we do here on stream, we do eventually push to GitHub. Yes, that's right, I'm Tom Arnold and I am a programmer. Okay. Does that so you can fit more code on the screen for the stream, I think. Oh, is it SNB? I thought he did that all the time and not just for the stream, but maybe. I could see doing that specifically for streaming, like not taking up extra white space. Because, you know, we have limited space up here on the stream anyway. You guys don't realize it, but, like, I mean, I'm zoomed in. That's a way bigger font than I would use if I weren't streaming. And, that's just so that you guys can read it without having to squint. And if you ever are having to squint to read the text on my screen, just yell at me and I will fix it. Okay. So, here is where we ended last stream. We were working on our RPG combat kata. This is a programming exercise that we were going to be doing a little bit of. So essentially the idea with this one is that we are going to build a program that deals with combat for, say, an RPG style video game. But we are going to ignore some of the parts because we want to, it's a programming exercise, so we want to keep it limited to just the scope we're working with. So we can assume that there are other developers working on the other parts, or maybe we already worked on the other parts, something like that. So we're just going to focus on the area we care about right now. So in that case, this is just the combat. So that means we ignore things like our maps, skills that aren't related to combat, and other things like that. So the instructions for this are interesting. So this kata programming exercise, whatever you want to call it, is designed with the idea that you're working in iterations. So think normal development environment within an organization where you get a set of requirements each, say, week or 2 weeks or month or whatever it is that your team is able to split up your work into. You get that set of requirements, you work on it, and you maybe have a vague idea of what's going to be in the next set of requirements, but you haven't really gotten that information because they want you to focus on this part. And additionally, as you probably suspect, those things could change based on what you build and what other ideas the product owner comes up with. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we started iteration 1. We created characters that have health at 1,000, level at 1, and can be alive or dead. And I should mention that we did all this with test-driven development. So we have tests that confirm all of those features work. And a couple of other things. They can deal damage, they can heal. The next iteration, we made it clear that characters could not damage themselves, and they could only heal themselves. So you could damage others, but you couldn't heal others. When dealing damage, you'd deal more damage to an opponent that was weaker than you, and less damage to someone that was stronger than you. We then did iteration 3, where we added in this concept of a range, and we said that your character has a range that they can reach to, whether they are melee fighters or ranged fighters. And we just built that in, and that's basically where we stopped. We did our retrospective and talked about our code a little bit. So that's where we left off. I'm going to run these tests just so we can confirm that everything is working since our last stream. Oh, then why is there still an update to this? I thought that was supposed to get that. Either way. Let me open up the repository. It's not connected to GitHub yet, so we'll push this out once we're done with it so you can all see it. But there we go. All of our tests are passing. Everything is green, so a bunch of green tests. That looks great. You can't see them all that well because they're behind me again. I think last time we put them over here. And then we unpinned it so that when we... Whoop! Didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to do that. I pulled way too many windows over there. That was dumb. I just derped that one. Someone want to spam derp in the chat there for me? That was a massive derp. No one has derp. Only I have derp. There we go. Derp. That was a bad one. Whoops. I grabbed the whole set instead of just the window I wanted. So we're going to put output back down here. So, by the way, pro tip, you can do all this stuff that I'm doing right here inside of Visual Studio. Shifting all these windows around. So you can actually decide where you want all this stuff. Okay, there we go. Now, let's see if I can get just this one. There we go. Okay, so now, Test Explorer. Now you can live over here on that side and be pinned. So we'll pull you out and... There we go! Fixed! Okay, now you guys can see the tests. Alright, awesome. Okay, I want to rewrite my website backend to talk with a relational database and serve my front end straight from C#. Gotta ask, where do I start? You want to do a website backend to talk with a relational database. WorldWake, look into ASP.NET Core Razor pages and connecting with EF Core. So if you're actually doing a full website rewrite, I would go to what is current. And that means using Razor pages, C#, and connecting to your database. You could use Dapper or EF Core. The only reason I recommend EF Core is because it is the first-party solution from Microsoft. So that's why I recommend EF Core. So... I mean, it's a good solution, too. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I usually recommend people go with that. If you don't have any other reason not to, go with the main solution. Alright, so our test pass, everything's running, that's cool. Let's go ahead and jump back into, nope, not there, into this window, and we're going to look at iteration 4. So iteration 4, characters may belong to one or more factions. Okay. And newly created characters belong to no faction at all. That makes it easy. That means that everything we had before, we didn't have to deal with factions. This is a new concept, and our old stuff should work fine because there's no default value here. A character may join or leave one or more factions. So it sounds like you can be in more than one at the same time. Players belonging to the same faction are considered allies. Allies cannot deal damage to one another. Allies can heal one another. Ah, there we go. Okay. Good, good, good. Alright, that sounds great. Our code, I think, will handle this well. So at the end of the last part, when we were doing our retrospective, we were wondering if we thought our code could adapt to new requirements. And I think we can adapt to these requirements. So that's good. So first things, characters should. So this test fixture here, this test class, is essentially what our basic expectations are. So we set this up as when you create a character, what is this going to be? Till, our project type right now that we're using is actually a class library. So our assumption here is that we're writing the combat system. So we could connect a console application front end to this, or a website, or anything else, but for now it's actually just a class library. So we're testing these pieces. So start without any factions. So remember, since a character can be in more than one faction, when we're determining are you an ally of someone, it's going to be if you have any factions that are aligned. So that's important to remember. So I'm checking functionality only in the unit test. That's correct, Till. The only thing that confirms our code right now is unit testing. But I can still tell you that even without running it in a console app, I am confident that this code works right now to the requirements that we've met. Okay, so we're going to create a new character, and then I want to check the factions. So my impression on this is that a faction is probably not static. A faction is probably something that that we could have more than one of, and they'd be in the database, and users probably create factions, is my assumption there. So let's go ahead and assume that a faction is a full class, and for now it's going to be empty, so that's why I'm not going to test the faction class yet. This is just going to be an empty faction. And in fact, I'm going to give it an ID. So we're going to give it a grid ID. And the only reason for that is just so that we can do the comparison of them to tell if one faction or another is the one that someone's associated with. Okay, so we go back over here, start without any factions. Assert empty, and I am going to say character dot factions. Maybe we'll do like give you so we'll have access to their collection of factions, and we want to assert that their set of factions is empty. Oh, Nocta, sorry. Ask me at some point when I'm inside the chatbot, and I will show you how command cooldown tracker works. It is easier than it seems, I would bet. Some of the code can look confusing sometimes, even if it's not actually that difficult. So, but I do understand. I'm sure it looks confusing, because I'm sure we're doing something crazy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I made a new property called Factions. It is a list of that faction class that I just created, and I am going to instantiate it with an empty collection. Now, the reason I do that is because our operations that we do on this are going to be like adding and removing items from this collection. Nowhere in it are we going to assign a whole thing to it, so it's best if we just start it off as an empty collection. So that is what we're going to do there. In fact, since we're going to do that, we don't even need a setter on that. So, fancy trick that you can do in current versions of C#, you don't actually need to have the setter. And if you do that, that makes it so that the only time it can be set is at creation time. So, actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to leave the setter there, only because that's going to make our testing a little bit easier, and I don't have nice constructors yet. So we're going to do that. So there's factions. And so we say confirm it's empty. Let me delete that unused line, and then we're going to run this test and see what we get. Let's go. Come on, green. Green, green, green. There we go. Okay, as we expected, since we just wanted to start out empty, it should just work. So in that case, we expected that to pass. But I just want to confirm that it can fail, so I am going to do this. Just to confirm that it can fail, I'm going to put this in here temporarily, because you always want to make sure that your test really does what you think it is, what you think it's doing. Okay, it failed. Perfect. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. we wanted to see that the test could fail, because sometimes you didn't actually test what you thought you tested. So your test was written wrong. Until you see it fail, you don't know that it can fail. Okay, so everything is green. Let's move on. The next requirement, so the first thing is belong to no factions. We've added in the concept of a faction association, but we don't yet have the ability to join and leave factions. So let's go ahead and add that. So we're going to make methods on here for join faction and leave faction. And really, it's just adding to this collection, but I kind of want to hide this collection away eventually, even though our current code doesn't do that. So let's write that piece. So let's just jump down here, and we're going to say public void join faction, faction. Let me just write the word faction 3 times in a row. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say leave faction. So we now have join and leave faction. And actually, now that I did that, I'm going to get rid of this setter. Because we now have those. So now if we want to do that, we're going to call join and leave faction as the way that you do it. I think that's good enough. So, join faction, we're going to say factions dot add faction. And we're going to say factions dot remove faction. Now everybody's sitting here going, but wait, that's going to fail if you've got them in there. Don't worry. This isn't the code yet anyway. So let's go back to this class. We're going to say join faction should. So this is going to be our test class to confirm that this code works. So when we create this, we're going to go ahead and say yup fact at fact. Then we're going to say public void join faction should add faction to factions list. And I want to say given new faction. So there is test number 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to say new character. So we always want to start with a new character because we know that the new character is going to have an empty faction list. And then we want to say character dot join faction new faction. And actually, before we do this, let me do this. I want that GUID to always be unique, because that is really what we can compare to tell if the faction is in there. And let me do this just to be sure. I am going to do this. So I'm going to do a fancy thing here. Don't worry about what I'm doing right now. Yes, Pesm, you hit the exact thing that we are talking about. That's why I wrote it given a new faction. Yep, you are absolutely correct. Okay, so we are going to say that this is based on this. Don't worry about my code there. It is not important. That is just my equality stuff. Nothing to see here. Just ignore that. It's ugly, but it'll do what I want it to do. Okay. So we made new faction object right here, and now I want to assert dot contains, and we are expecting to find our new faction in here. So I'm just going to write new faction, and you'll see why in a second. And then I want to say character dot factions. So we are expecting to find this inside of that collection. Now everybody's noticed, hey, wait a minute, you made 2 of those, they're not going to be the same. Don't worry. I'm going to replace both occurrences with that. So now we have a faction we create, we join, and we attempt to remove. Okay, so add faction. Okay, so join faction should not add faction to faction list given existing faction. That was the question you asked there, Pez, and that is what we are going to do with it. So since we already have a test that confirms that you can join, this second test isn't going to need that piece. Instead, what this one is going to do is confirm that there's only a single one. So we're going to say confirm that assert single faction, despite the fact that I am going to join it twice. So these tests should both fail at the beginning. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the first test pass. So let's go over to our join faction method, and we are going to go ahead and uncomment it, because we've already confirmed it can fail, because it certainly didn't contain that item. And now we're going to run it again, and you'll see that it passes. But the second one does not pass yet because oh, the collection contains 0 matching elements instead of 1. Really? That's weird. It should have been... maybe it meant 0 collections with single thing? I don't know. We'll take a look. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to join faction, and I'm going to say if factions.contains faction. If it does not already have this one, add it. So we're going to do that. Character faction should be an I set instead of a list. Is equatable, then you have to check before add and also remove. Oh! ICANN has Jonas. That is a great idea. Yeah, we could make it... where did I not put factions up there? I put factions somewhere I shouldn't have. I'm going to move factions up to here. Huh. I don't know. Anyway, so we move factions up here, and we're going to make this... I like the idea of doing a hash set. Can we found you missing using... Nope, it should come in. For some reason there's a bird on my window. I don't know why there's a bird at my window. That's weird. So, anyway. So, the reason that this is going to work as ICANN has Jonas... yes, it's a Twitter. Yeah, I forgot. I have Twitter running. That's why there's a bird that showed up at my window. Was it? Oh, yeah. So in our factions class, if we take a look at it, you'll notice that we have a get hash code on it, which means that it works. So we can actually use that inside of a hash set. So this is valid. If we hadn't written that, we wouldn't be able to do this, because we wouldn't actually have equality on these objects. So, what he is suggesting is that we could do this. So factions dot... If we just add, if it's exceeded, yeah. So faction. So we could, in fact, change this to be a Boolean if we wanted to, and say whether or not they were actually getting put in there. Nice thing is... Oh, actually, I'm going to write the test before we make that one work. Let's see what happens when we run this. Okay. There we go. Now when we go to... brain, worked for a second. Now we want to do the other method. So we want to do the opposite of this. So I'm going to copy this and say leave faction. Leave faction should remove faction from list given existing faction. So we're going to join one, and then we're going to leave the faction. Okay. Now we want to assert it is empty. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to come down here and we want to say it should do nothing given non-joined faction, maybe? That might be the way to phrase it. So if we attempt to leave a faction, there should be fine. Basically, nothing should break. As long as that doesn't fail, we're happy. And I guess we can assert that this is still empty. We'll assert that the that the collection's empty, because clearly it's empty. We didn't do anything. And in fact, since we're not using this variable, I'm going to inline it right there. Whoops. There we go. Now this one gets used twice, so I'm going to leave those as is. Before we do this, I'm going to move this to its own file. So there we go. Build, and we are going to run all our tests and see what succeeds and what fails. So here we go. Remove from factions given non-existing. Interesting. So faction ID. Wait, hang on a second. I thought I set this to equals quid.newgwid. Oh, my bad. My bad. There we go. Messed that one up. That was me. Sorry. Sorry. I did it. Oh, yeah. Well, I also messed it up anyway, because I didn't do that. I needed a gwid, not do gwid. Because this was giving us empty gwids before. So let's jump back in here. So leave factions, didn't do anything. Yeah, so we got messed up because of that piece that I messed up there. So let me run this again, make sure everything's actually succeeding and failing as expected. So joining is working just fine. But how about leaving? So the do nothing one works fine. That basically just means that it doesn't break. Which is what we'd expect, right? Like, the do nothing operation should just work even if we haven't commented out the code, because even with the code commented out, because we've done nothing. This one fails, which it should because we didn't write it yet. And the reason it fails, if we take a look at the code, should be... Hey, thanks for the dime, much appreciated. I do crack for a living. Nice. Are you a lawyer? Okay, so we were expecting empty, but it has a faction in it. Don't compile that. Why would you compile that? I don't want you to compile assert for me. Okay, so when we go into... But welcome! Okay, so now if we uncomment that code and jump back over here and run this, we should get passing test. Hooray! Okay, so we did join and leave faction. So allow characters to join and leave factions. So those felt like they were a solid piece of stuff. Let's take a look at the next part of our iteration. So our next instruction, after we are able to join factions, so that's these two here, we then say that players that belong to the same faction are considered allies. So what I want to do is this. I want to write a method that I am going to call public void is an ally that takes in a character. because I think that this is going to be a great way to be able to tell if someone's an ally or not, because we're going to need to determine this. So having a little helper is good. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to say is an ally, throws a new exception, and we're going to say not implemented exception on this one, so that we can get our test to work. So let's make a class for is an ally should. And this again is related to the faction. So probably if we were doing a full-on project and not just a programming exercise here, I would have a folder of like faction related stuff, because these are so related. And everything here would be related to characters and combat inside of a folder about that as well, because it's important to keep your tests organized. But that is not the goal of this exercise. So we are not going to focus on that. We're going to stay focused on our goal. Return true given character in same given characters in same faction. So we're going to say that. And the reason I was thinking about that is because I was trying to come up with what the next test would be. And I want to say characters in same set of factions. Now I could have gotten away with just the S, but I don't think people would notice the distinction, so I wanted to make sure the test was clear there. So that's why I added the set of, because I want someone to notice what the difference between these two are and not just be looking for an S. Okay. So return true given characters with one matching faction. So this is, they're in one faction and it agrees. This is, they have two factions that agree, and this is, they have one that agrees and one that disagrees, is what those tests are meant to be. And then I want to say false given no factions, and false given... So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say return false given no faction, and then also return false given unmatching faction. Okay, so there's our set of tests that have all gotten rid of the red squigglies. So our names are now unique. And what I want to do is this. I want to say var character equals new character. So we're going to do that. And we're going to give them... Then I want to say this. So this is... we need two characters. So this is 1 and 2. And actually, I want to do this in a fancy way. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to do private, not void. I'm going to do private private, and we're going to do character, comma, character. So I want to get our couple of characters each time like this, because I think it's going to be a little nicer. So we're going to say character, character. So a fact, for anyone who doesn't recognize that, a fact is XUnit's way of saying that it is a test method. So we're basically saying it's a fact that this, it's a fact that that. And then there's also, they also have theory. They have fact and theory. So get test characters is what I'm going to call this method, and it is going to return me a couple of test characters. But what I'm going to do is this. I am going to have each one accept an IEnumerable. Oh, whoops. Private test characters, get test character. Okay, so before I'm going to get rid of the red squiggly for now. So we're going to say character 1, character 2. And for anyone that is wondering what I'm doing here with these parens and this multiple character thing, this is called a tuple or a tuple, depending on which way you want to say it. You're allowed to argue that if you want, because we're programmers and we argue those kinds of things. But essentially, that lets me return multiple values from this method. So I want to make an IEnumerable of faction. And we're going to call this, I don't know, but C# hurts my eyes, it looks so unusable to me. What language are you from? Factions, factions, and IEnumerable of factions. So 1 and 2. I mean, to each their own, right? So we're gonna say, so these factions, we're gonna do character 1 dot join faction, and then we're gonna do the same thing for character 2. So factions 2, we're gonna get character 2 joined into those. So basically, we now have it set up so that we can do that nice and easily. C and C++. Yeah. Obvious similarities. Oh yeah. So if you're not used to C# or Java or anything like that, that's how these tend to work. Everything is a class, and it's all structured into these objects, and we don't have like the separate regions for the public and the private and things like that. We just use the access modifier directly on whatever it is to manipulate it. Works pretty well. So I've done a lot of C and C++ in the past as well. I enjoy C#, but I like C and C++ for what they are good at. So I said IEnumerable, but you know what? I think these are probably just going to be lists. So I'm just going to call them a list for now, and we'll decide if that's going to be different later. So, Tau Gaming, welcome. Thanks for following. So what am I programming? We are doing a programming exercise right now that is setting up an RPG combat system. So we're ignoring all the things like maps and anything having to do with the characters other than just performing basic combat operations. And it's basically just a programming exercise with the point of being a small-scale thing that I or you or anyone else could work on. And in fact, you can watch how I approach it and solve it. And I mean, keeping in mind that even with what I'm building here, I'm not going for the best solution. I'm just going for a good one, one that I like, one that I'm happy with. So that's the main goal. Tau Gaming, you're a Java engineer, and you just acquired a company whose apps are in C#. Yes. So if you haven't done a lot of unit testing in Java, and I'll say Oswinhop. I don't think I guessed your name yet, but welcome. Thanks for following. Yeah, so there's JUnit, there's CPP unit, there's NUnit, there's XUnit. There are all kinds of unit testing frameworks in all the different systems if you want to do unit testing. And yeah, Java and C# are similar enough, but just enough to cause you a headache. I will say. I do actually occasionally have to do some Java work, but I am a big fan of my C# stuff. Yes, I know. Also, you know that C# and Java do not compile into binary. That is correct, Oswin. They both work through a virtual machine. So Java goes down to what they call bytecode, and that runs through the Java virtual machine. And C# goes to something called intermediate language, and that runs through the .NET runtime. So both of these languages, what they actually compile down into is what is effectively like a way to describe it is like it's an assembly language-ish. So it's like a fake assembly language that the benefit of it is that because it runs through this, if you call it this, if you said it was a VM, like it's a virtual layer, so instead of having to match the processor that it's running on, it can run almost anywhere. So that's why .NET Core, for example, because it just goes down to intermediate language, they just needed to write the code to be able to execute .NET Core code on Macs, on Linux, on Windows, and so now it runs anywhere. And so you can actually write your C# code on any system. It doesn't just have to be Windows anymore. CuteCat, you could make... hi. Yes, you could make a Discord version of our bot. Someone actually already started that project, so if you want to take a look at that, you are welcome to try and update that. We have a pull request out for it. And you'd pick C# over Java anytime, since you're a C and C++ guy, and your natural instinct is to hate Java. Well, don't worry, Oswin. There are enough people that hate Java, C#, C++, because the software development world is full of people hating any other technology that's not the one they use. And sometimes we hate the technology we use because it's the one we use. Is assembly for hardware coding or something like that? Yeah, assembly is like the hardware level coding. So it's like... your processor on your computer. If you've heard of x86, that's an assembly. That's an assembly language. Momenti, what got me into coding? I guess the short answer is I was interested in making stuff with code. So back in the 90s, like what, a little over 20 years ago, I started programming just because I was interested in making stuff, and that's about the short answer. And in the end, I faced the truth. I have yes. And Dan, welcome. Thanks for following. You have used Java a lot. Heard that it gives you its fair share of bad habits. Yeah, they all can. So, Python, Bash, and a little bit of PHP. CuteCat, I may have mentioned, I actually used to be a Python programmer, although I've never been a PHP programmer. Bad habits. We all have a lot of bad habits. So, one of the bad habits that a lot of people that work in managed code run into, so managed includes using Java. Oh man, that was a nice troll. That was a nice troll. No, the bad habit that we all get into is we don't deal with garbage collection very well, because we're used to just, let go of the reference and forget it. And so that's one of the problems that a lot of people have. It's a challenge of dealing with managed code. We don't deal with memory because it's managed. We should pay more attention to it, though. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to say get test characters, and I want to pass in a new list of faction. And actually, I want to make these each have a default value of an empty list so that I don't actually have to pass either one in. Why is it complaining about that? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Awesome, Tau Gaming. Thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription. Much appreciated. Please enjoy your DevChatter hype emote. And anybody who's in chat and has DevChatter hype emote, anybody who has these hype emotes, please spam them in chat, because that's awesome. Okay. I have no idea why AutoMod caught you there, Oswin. Okay. So, new list of faction. Must be a default thing. Okay, whatever. Won't let me get away with that. Bummer. There are other ways around it. Yeah, Momenti. I do like our little hype emote. For anybody that can't tell, it's actually a dinosaur. He's holding up a hype sign, but he's got tiny little arms, so he's got to use little grabbers to hold it up. And I'm assuming that's James yelled really loud, but that's my guess. Thanks for following. Welcome to DevChatter. PHP is old and probably JS is more used, but I agree PHP is great. Let's see, I'll give you Perl because I know nothing about Perl. Yeah, I don't use Perl. Automod is racist. Yes. I had no idea that C++ guys was a race, but I'm sorry about that, Oswin. I'll have a talking out with him. And welcome, Momenti. Thanks for following. The thing about PHP is it had to get really big and popular before JavaScript took off, so there's enough apps out there for it to never die. Yeah, so that is actually the problem with PHP, is PHP is actually... I would argue that PHP probably got passed by a lot of the other languages a while back. But it is so widely used that it makes it very valuable to know. It is all over the place. The internet is covered in PHP, so knowing PHP is valuable. I would also say that it's good to know a lot of things. So I like lots of web stacks. There are tons of good ones. There are tons of great programming languages. Lots of good stuff. Okay, so we have our get test characters here, and deconstruct that into character 1 and character 1 and character 2. I know my numbers. And actually, we're going to do this. Var character 1, character 2, test characters. Given characters in the same faction. I'm going to do this. Hang on. IEnumerable. Because I only need them to be an IEnumerable, and then I can get away with this. I want to do a new array of the type that I want to pass in, and I want to say, what do we want to say for this? This is a new faction. So this is the same faction that they're both, this is the faction they're both going to be in. Okay. So there we go. There's our faction collection. Okay. Also helps that PHP was written to be more than just a weekend project that was never meant to take off. And it has two really nice web frameworks in Laravel and Symfony. Yeah, so that is one of the things that is nice, is that most web technologies right now are actually getting a lot of improvements. So, I'm sure most of you have noticed that PHP is not the only web technology that is advancing quickly. So, they all are. And Craig Muzza, I apologize if I butchered your name, but welcome, thanks for following, is an ally of character 2. So this should be a Boolean value, so I want to say assert.true that. Did I not make that true? Is ally. Bool. Derp. Okay, there we go. And so now what I want to do is this. I want to make sure that this is bidirectional. So every time we do this isAlly check, I actually want to do both just to confirm. Only thing I know about PHP is that you can execute shell commands. Yeah, so, I mean, you can do that kind of stuff with a lot of things, cute cat, not just PHP. Which is why we as developers have to be very careful about how we write our code. Okay, so we gave them each that faction. That will not work because I don't think we wrote the code for it yet. Or maybe we did. I don't think I think it's still throwing a not implemented exception. But we'll find out real quickly. Okay, so this one is failing because of not implemented exception. That is perfect. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to say, actually, before we do that, I'm gonna write a couple of other tests. and I'm going to take this helper method that we wrote here up at the top, and I am going to put this down at the bottom, because I want the test to be the first thing, so we'll ignore the helper, we're going to read the test first. So now, for the next test, I just want to do this. I want to say, same set of factions, plural. So we're going to say faction 1 and faction 2, and we're going to say faction 1 and faction 2. So there we go. Whoops. Okay, there we go. And then on this one, with one matching faction. So now in this test, I want to do faction 1, faction 2. So I don't need faction 2. Oh, they're just going to have faction 1 matching. New faction. And then this is going to be... And just to make sure that order doesn't matter, I am going to do new faction here and then say faction 1. So what I try to do in my tests is throw in some things that I think might cause us a problem, maybe. And so that's how I help to catch this stuff. So notice that I made sure that the order is not going to matter. So it could be the first and the second, they don't have to match. And that sort of lets me get away with some stuff. Just worked for me. A company invited me to a 1-week trial for a job as a student helper. Oh, that's awesome, Oswin. Hopefully they're also paying you for that. Allow me to view the directory and even get a web terminal that is a terminal of the server. Yeah, so... let's see, is becoming a web developer hard? I don't really know much about programming. Momenti, it's not difficult to get a job as a web developer as long as you know basically what, like how to program. Web development jobs are so in demand right now that you can pretty much get a web development job almost anywhere. So you don't actually have to worry about that one. Now, so a lot of people are commenting that web development is one of the easiest, and that's kind of, it's a somewhat true statement. Web development is not a difficult gig, really. However, that's not to say that you can't do it poorly. So you can be much better about web development. You can be much better at web development. You can have a much better understanding of it, because in some ways it's actually simpler to create applications. So if you're building like internal UI-based applications, some of those are much easier. So like if you're building business apps, the reason they're easier is because those applications have state, whereas on the web you don't have state. So every request you receive is a new request. So there's some other challenges like that. And then one of the other difficulties is on the web you actually often have to know JavaScript, your backend language, whether it's C#, Java, PHP, whatever. And then you also need to know SQL. Now, if you're writing a UI application on an actual machine, a client one, then you're going to be writing in, say, C# or Java or Python or something like that, as well as SQL, but you won't also have to know the JavaScript. Let's see. Wow, really hard. Yeah, CuteCat, that's HTML. That's a markup language, not actual development. Let's see. Momenti, the salaries are not always lower. It more depends on where you are and your skill level than anything else. So you can get the same pay with web development as you can with anything else. And significantly, the jobs are in web dev right now also. Cobalt, welcome, hi. And CuteCat, yeah, pen testing is actually a fun thing. Salary is, as far as I know, is kind of good depending on what kind of web dev you do. Yes, exactly. Yep, Oswin is totally right. And Carmen Lightwing, have a great day. We'll see you later. Linux. What, HTML isn't a programming language? It's a markup language. That's not to say that it's not certainly involved in programming, but I do want to clarify that writing your markup, like that would be like saying that XML is a programming language, which is like, well, kind of. It's used for it. It's related. So there is a distinction there. And Janisku, welcome. And there's Cobalt. You hate XAML, huh? Yeah, so, okay. So there we go. Faction, 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 faction. So we expect them to be allies even though they share one faction. Now let's go the other direction. We're going to say that we want false now. So we're going to say that these are not allies, and they're each going to have no faction, so we're going to make these empty collections. Notice that I did not specify the type of my array. That wasn't a problem before, but now it is. And the reason for that is that C# was actually intuiting the type of this array. So notice when I mouse over it, it's kind of small there, but you can tell that that is a faction array. And it can tell because these objects I gave it in its collection initializer are factions. So it knew what that type was without my having to tell it. So that's the cool thing that it does there. Down here it won't do that. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to just, whoops, forget my space and then do that, and it'll look stupid. Twice. And there we go. So now we have empty faction collections. So when we pass that in, it should say that these characters are not allies because they have no factions. And then the next set we want to do is actually going to be closer to this one. We're going to say they have factions, but they're not the same ones. So now let's do this. So they each have a faction, but not the same faction. So there we go. So they each have their own unique faction, and we expect them to not be allies, so we're going to change true to false. And now let's run all these tests, and now we should have a bunch failing. A lot of tests failing, which will be great. This is exactly what we want. Let's see. Entire front-end dev with HTML, CSS is not programming. I would say it is. Let's call it development, but not programming, because development is the creation of applications, of which design is even a part of development. But yeah, I wouldn't call that programming, per se, which is why HTML is not a programming language, but it is a language. It's a markup language. And XAML is also a markup language, as is XML. CSS is a programming language. It's Turing complete. There you go, Segfalter. Yeah, There you go, Segfalter. Nice. The video part of the stream is lagging. My Chrome... sorry, Cute Cat. Can't help you there. Not all code paths return a value. Throw, new, not, implemented, exception. We're going to put the exception back, because I want to run these tests first. CSS, copy of MS Paint. Anybody here use MS Paint? I am an American, yes. Which you can guess based on a few things. First off, my American accent. Second, I'm actually willing to drink Coke Zero, which, I don't know, maybe you guys drink that outside the US. Yeah, my accent generally points out that I am an American. MS Paint. Greater than any other tool. Yep. Is there a big difference between Visual Studio 2015 and 2017? Yes, there are some significant differences between VS 2015 and 2017. They added a bunch of new features, but then, James, I would also ask... exactly, Jonas. 2. 2017 minus 15 is 2. Yeah, so they have different sets of plugins, they have different features. You can do a lot of the same stuff with 2015 as you can with 2017, and if you have certain versions, there are features that suddenly become available. For example, Code Lens, which is right up here, right above all my methods, you'll see that I have records of who's edited them, what the changes are, how many places they're referenced, so various things like that. So if I open up characters, for example, and we scroll up here, you can see that they're, here's the commit for this. Yeah, thanks, Oswin. Much appreciated. Thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription. Please now also enjoy your DevChatter hype emote. Raise those hype signs up in the air with your little grabber thingies. Thank you, Oswin. Yeah, I appreciate it. There are a number of differences. They are built for different things. They have different tooling. What the exact differences are, I would recommend you go grab an article on that, because that'll be better than having just an answer on this video here. Procedural loading is a feature of 2017. Awesome! Good suggestion there, Cobalt. Yeah, so hopefully you don't have a solution consisting of 300 plus projects, but if it happens... And yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, there is actually a pretty good program out there. So if you are a Windows user and you want a program that's like as easy to use as MS Paint but has layers and things like that, I recommend you give Paint.net a try. It's actually a pretty cool program. Works reasonably well, gets you layers, and you can do some fancy stuff like that. And Paint 3D also, I believe, isn't that like built into Windows? I think that's just like built in or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, it wasn't a fun... Yeah, so anybody here who's worked on projects that had like 300 plus, or solutions that had like 300 plus projects, you are a champ. Congratulations. Hopefully you don't have to do that ever again. Okay, so let's jump back to the isAlly method. So here's what I want to do. I want to say character.factions.any contains. So if their set of factions contains, man, how am I going to write this? Do I have link up at the top yet? System link, yes, and collections and generic collections. How do we want to write this? Let's see. Oh. What did people say? Your internship I didn't know was doing at the time. Overlaps. Isn't Ally characters? Oh! ICANN has Jonas. I am going to look at your code right here. Have to head out. You're awesome. Oh! Very much appreciated, ICANN has Jonas. Have a great day. Please enjoy the rest of it. Let's see. So he made a suggestion of some code here. Let's see what it is. Public bool is an ally. Faction overlaps other factions. Very nice. That is clean and concise. Factions overlaps of other factions. And basically he's just returning whether or not there are any overlaps. So let's check with our tests. If that just works, that'd be awesome. It should be green. Yeah, there you go. Very nice. Woohoo! That worked nicely. Oh, and Tau Gaming, yes. Clean Code is a very good book to read for anyone who is interested. I do actually have some book recommendations down below. One of them is going to be out of date pretty soon. It's the John Skeet book that's down there, because he's writing a new one, and I think it's supposed to be out later this year. I think they started taking pre-orders for it, so as soon as that one is out, I would recommend people get that one instead, and I'll update the list down below with that. But yes, Cobalt, the Clean Code book that I recommend is absolutely an essential book that all programmers should read. Oh, that's actually pretty cool, Tau Gaming. Yeah, he just lives across the, small body of water from me, as far as I know. Pretty sure he doesn't live in any of the Americas, so yeah, you just gotta cross an ocean, you get there. Pretty close by, easy things. Although, funny enough, John Skeet actually shows up to a conference that's near me every year. So he actually does fly over here and he plays board games at our conference. I swear that's why he shows up. I don't think he shows up for the tech conference. Even though the tech conference is awesome, I think he shows up to play games in the board game room. So, I mean, why else do you go to a tech conference other than to play board games? Okay, so, test and create is an ally method. So we're going to go ahead and commit that. So that works out nicely. So I do want to explain for anyone in here who does not understand what this code does. There's a couple of things going on here. The first one is the iSet operation. So the iSet class, interface, the iSet interface that we are using works with hash sets and other like sets of data. Now a set is a special term. So it's actually used in mathematics as well as programming, and a set is actually going to have a unique set of items in it. It's not a collection, so a set and a collection are not the same thing. So in this case, because we have a set, it actually can say whether or not we have any overlaps. So that means any values where it's in both the set and the collection. So notice that we're doing a comparison with an IEnumerable. Cow Canvas, welcome, thanks for following. So by doing that, it's able to return back a Boolean if there is a match between the two. So it works nicely. The other interesting thing here for anyone who doesn't recognize it, there's this fat arrow here. This is usually used to indicate a lambda expression. So that means that we're sort of encapsulating some behavior into a variable is normally how that works. However, in C#, starting around version 7, I believe, no, 6, in version 6, we got a concept called an expression-bodied member. So that means that we can have an expression as the entire body of a member, whether that be a method or a property. In this case, it's a method. And so what we can do is, instead of writing this code where we have a return and some curly braces, we can instead just put the one expression all in one line if we want. And Mathamello, hello, welcome, thanks for following. Let me catch up on chat here. Is he good at board games? The board game he plays, yes, he's good at it. The human interface would be transforming your picture just once, then the execution. After all, the real program, there is an actor that initiates the execution. You can scratch and compress pages with... Yeah. Heuristic proof would be given the paint loop, and so that I can sponsor. Oh, Cobalt, have a good one. Take care. Bye. Thanks for stopping by. You don't need loops for Turing completeness. You just need infinite memory. Cobalt, that is technically true. That is an absolutely absurd, technically true statement. If you had infinite memory, you would not need loops. There you go. That's kind of absurd, but yes. Okay. And Joe King, 916, welcome. Thanks for following. Alright, let's take a look at our piece here. We're committed, right? Yep, we are all committed. We have this. So we can determine whether or not we are allies. So now let's go adjust dealing damage to someone and healing someone, because we previously wrote some code that said deal damage should make character dead, give enough, not deal damage to self. So along the same lines as this, I want to say not deal damage to allies. Not deal damage to allies. So we're going to say me and ally, and we're going to attempt to deal damage to our ally, and the ally's health should not change. That's what we're saying. So what I am going to do is this. I'm going to go factions equals new faction. And then we're going to say down here, factions, new faction. So now you may have noticed that I duplicated this. Once again, I'm going to lean on the development tools I'm using and extract out this variable. So I'm going to replace two instances with one, and now they're the same variable again. So these guys are allies because they're in the same faction, and then I can say that we should not deal damage to my ally. So right now I expect this test to fail because we don't actually check whether they're an ally when we decide whether or not we can deal damage to them. So this will have damaged that player. Yep. We expected 1,000, actual was 900. So we just hurt our ally, and we want to fix that. So, deal damage. Deal damage 2 if they are if the enemy is us or they're out of range. So, we want to say, or is an ally. Oh, whoops. So we called it enemy. We called them enemy in here, and I'm actually thinking that we want to say target. And that's the character we're targeting. So they're not necessarily an enemy because they might be an ally. Because is enemy an ally seems like a strange thing to say. Target, unarranged, that. Okay. I think that'll work. Let's run our code and find out. So we're going to run all these tests and see what we end up with. There we go. Perfect. That is exactly what we wanted to see. Next thing that I want to check is that when we heal characters, we should be able to heal an ally. So, do nothing given dead character, raise health of an injured character, do nothing given trying to heal someone else. Okay, so in this one, we tried to heal someone else. To heal, we're going to say non-ally, and in this one, we're going to say heal ally. Raise health given trying to heal allies. So we're expecting this to end up being 101. So now I kind of want to extract this out because we ended up with 2. So now this feels like code that we could pull out matching stuff. So we'll call that our ally. So it started with a health setting, which is fine. So me, heal ally. Let's do this. So we're going to set our factions again, equal to new faction. And now in this one, we're going to say factions equals new faction. There we go. And I need to extract this out as a variable. So we're going to do that. And run this. And it fails, as we expect. Remember, we haven't written the code yet, so we want this to be read. So there is our failure, and it fails because it did not do the healing. So we've confirmed not only did it fail, but it failed for the reason that we expected it to. So that is perfect. Ni ha 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 ha. A fact is just a test method. So this is what the XUnit framework uses for its test methods. So essentially, that just means that when I tell it to run all my tests, anything that has this attribute is going to be treated as a test. Alternately, they also have a theory, which is a different type of test. Theories have parameters. So a test, a fact is a very specific one, whereas a theory has variability to it. That's the only difference inside of XUnit. Okay, so I think I said that this, let's run this again, because I messed with the test, so it removed that failing piece. So raise health given trying to heal ally. So it didn't do it, let's go make that work. So we're going to jump over to our healing method. So heal character. We said if they're not us, and character to heal is whoops, sorry. I meant to do this. Character to heal is ally, and we're saying they're not. So if they're not us, and they're not an ally, return. If I mess that logic up, we'll find out because our test will fail. So let's go ahead and run these. We'll see if I got it. Okay, looks like I did. We're going to run all the tests now, just to confirm, because that's what we want to do before we commit. So all the tests are passing. That is wonderful. So allow damaging Allow healing allies. Disallow damaging allies. So allies don't get hurt by us, and we're allowed to heal them. So that is a great set of changes there. Big fan. Ace Flames here. Hello, hello. I had something I wanted to talk to you about, but I don't remember what it is. Okay, so that is the end of iteration 4. Let's take a look at iteration 5. So in iteration 5, characters can damage non-character things. So that's an interesting one. So, that means, oh, that's awesome, Till. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. You did this same project, and you ended up with similar code. Sounds good. And Ace Flames here. It is your finals week, and you have one more left. Oh, well, don't worry about not being able to make the stream. We do appreciate when you are here. So, almost being done with finals means you'll have more time for the stream. So, looking forward to having you around. So, we need to take out this concept of a targetable thing. So, anything that has health may be a target. These things cannot be healed, and they do not deal damage. These things do not belong to factions. They are neutral. When reduced to 0 health, things are destroyed. Okay, you can create a tree with 2,000 health. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This called it a thing, which isn't a great name, but we're going to make a thing. Now, a thing needs to have health. And if we think about this, we could just make thing that has health just like this and is damageable, just like our character class is damageable. However, if we go this route, we're going to end up writing a lot of code that does the same thing. So, Tau. No, this one's not from Code Wars. This one is from here. I will link in chat the coding exercise that we are working on. It is this one. So we are working on our RPG combat one. We started this on Saturday. Didn't finish it up because we were chatting about things, but we decided to finish it up today, so that's what we're doing. So I want to make some kind of a... I want to make an interface that is going to make this a little bit easier. Might be an interface, might actually be an abstract class. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. So, here's what I want to do. So let's make an interface. I'm going to start with an interface. If we decide we want an abstract class, we can always make one, because it's easy to go from an interface to an abstract class. So let's say that this is an I damageable. How the heck do you spell damageable? 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 I think that's it. Programmers aren't known for their spelling. We'll see if we can get away with this. If we can't get away with this, then we'll do something else. If it has to be a base class, we'll make it an abstract base class. But I don't really want to do that because we can't have more than one. With an interface, we can get away with it. Advanced interfaces and abstract class techniques. Alright, guys. So, here's what I want you to do. Go over here. If you want me to do that kind of stuff, make requests for some tutorials or streams, things like that, and we will add them to the list. So if people want to make suggestions for future streams, hop on over here to our stream info section and make some suggestions. So that's the best place to request a stream on something. And it is possible that what I'll try to do to handle the stream is make sure that we discuss it as part of one of our existing projects, or we'll do something new on it, one or the other. but I will try to talk about those types of things if you guys want to work on them. Okay, so this is an eye damageable, and what I want to do is see if I can't extract this up. So I want to pull this up into eye damageable. So let's see what it put in here. So we've basically told eye damageable needs to have a health property that you can get and set. So we're going to do that, and now we are going to add the same thing up here. So a character and a thing are both going to be considered eye damageable. Let's see, what have people said? Hello, new to the stream. Thanks, Reddit. Oh, Fraggle Rock 2, welcome. Yes, I'm doing red then green. I am doing the refactor sometimes. I've been doing it at the end of the iteration, but yes, Fraggle Rock, you're correct. I actually should have done it at the end of that iteration. That's what I'd said when I was doing this project, so good catch. I will jump in and do that now. In C#, I'm assuming the I is the convention for interface. Tau Gaming, yes, that is correct. Yep, exactly. We use I to indicate that it's an interface. That's just how we write it, despite the fact that you'll notice the color is actually different. So this is a darker green, that's a lighter green. So yeah, sorry, Nightbot gets confused there, Cute Cat. It probably thought something was a link because it had a dot, or was a, you know, something like that. Okay, and I will actually mention Fraggle Rock, because we're doing this as a COD, I'm trying not to refactor too much, because we can definitely take it too far. This stuff isn't going to be long enough lived to need that much refactoring. Okay, so you are right, though. We definitely need to clean up our character class. Let's see. Eye damageable has a health thing. So what I want to do is make it so a thing can be damaged. I'm Mr. S. It's considered good to use interfaces in a few places. So one of the reasons why you might use an interface is because it is easier to replace an interface. So you can have more than one interface on your object. So I could have eye damageable, but I could also have eye healable. So if certain things that are not characters were also able to be healed, I can then do that. And then they could each be healed in their own way, and it allows for our character class to essentially get multiple inheritance without inheriting from multiple things, because it's got its own implementation. So that's one reason why interfaces are nice. Some of the other ones are that it makes it so that you can more easily extract the dependency. So, for example, I might take in I might say that I need an IEnumerable of a type. An example of that would be I have it in our test right here. Oops, down here. I take in an IEnumerable of faction, and essentially what that means is I want to be able to get an object that gives me like 0 or more of that item when I request the next one. So that might be a collection, that might actually be some delayed code that gets me one. It could be code that's creating them on the fly. I don't really care what it is, as long as it can get me the next one when I need one. And so that's what an IEnumerable is, and it's not a collection. So that's actually what makes that pretty nice. I could pass in a list, for example. So if I'd required list, then that means that I can't do this. So what I ended up actually passing in was an array. And I could decide that after the fact at runtime to give an array, but I could also give a list. And it really doesn't matter. And so my interface is what allowed me to do that. It gave me the freedom to decide later on what type. So at runtime, I can decide what type it gets. Yeah, exactly, what Till said. With a lot of things in programming, there's complexity in the beginning that we just need to understand, and because I won't tell you that things are easy, because it's one of the things to worry about is sometimes someone will tell you, oh yeah, that's easy, that's easy, that's easy, and then it basically makes you feel stupid when you're like confused by it. No, these things, programming is not easy. That's not to say that sometimes we don't figure something out pretty quickly. The idea is once you understand it, then it's easy. But until you understand it, a lot of things in programming are hard. So don't worry if something is ever difficult, challenging. We all wrap our heads around different parts differently. So I know some people that are like whizzes with SQL, some people that can write LINQ like the best of them, and other people that can't. And those people are usually good at something else in programming. It just is what you focused on. So, problems! Welcome, hello, welcome back. Until you were really confused by interfaces when you started, but yeah, exactly. Interfaces are a strange thing, but they are super, super nice and useful. Okay, so we made an iDamageable interface, and we made things, and I want a test that allows us to damage things. So we're going to say class deal damage to thing should yeah, I'm going to say deal damage to things should. Which I understand that that's also still dealing damage, just like the other one was. Whoops. Fact. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to do public void do something given something. So we're going to do that for now. I don't know exactly what I'm going to write here because I want to catch up on chat. From 1 to even, I can't get this entity framework. It's almost there. I think I'm missing a using directive on entity framework or something. That is possible, WorldWake. Okay, so we want to do this. So let's make a new character. We'll call it character. And then I want to make var thing equals new thing. And I'm going to start things health out at 1,000. Now, character dot deal damage to thing. Okay, so the first thing that you'll notice here when I do this, when I try to deal this damage, all of a sudden it's saying, hey, you can't do that. So I get a compiler error. So I get this little red squiggly. That's because I haven't changed my deal damage method yet to take in that interface instead of a class. So right now the only value I can pass in here, as you can tell from the IntelliSense, is a character. So I'm supposed to pass in a character. I am going to finish this and then make that work. So I am going to say 900 and do thing.health. So we're going to do that. So right now, this code will not compile, but as soon as it does, it should probably work pretty darn quickly. Bread and Butter OW. OW, what's OW? Overwatch? Hey, welcome. What have you realized were the benefits of using interfaces? I will let Till answer that one, since you were directing that at Till. Change the type of the parameter of called method to iThing. No, don't do that. I'm going to make this an iDamageable. Okay. Get damage amount against the target. Okay. So I'm actually going to end up with a couple of issues here that I'm going to need to take a look at. Okay, so getting damage amount only happens if it's a character. Otherwise, only has special stuff if it's a character. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this iDamageable, but then I'm going to say if enemy is character, So we're going to do this. So this trick that I just did here, I'm going to explain because it's a little confusing. This is actually called this is called pattern matching. So in C#, if you use the is character, this means that we wanted to find this to only work in a special case. Now there's other ways I could have solved this, but I did it this way not because it's the best way, but because I want to show this to you. Because there are some instances where this is super, super useful. So what it does, normally you would have been able to do this. In the past in C#, you could have said object is of some type, and that was usually pretty valid. That worked in a lot of places. The cool thing now is that it will automatically put that in a variable. So if you look at just this highlighted code here, where I say the type and a variable name, what it is actually doing is creating a variable there. So that's why this looks like a standard variable declaration. It's because it is one. And what it actually assigns in here is this value. So it essentially just puts that in there. Now it does this not as like a casting operation. It's basically saying, hey, if that actually is the type, go ahead and put it in there. Just treat it as this type. And now all of a sudden in here, I can use the character object right away. So it's actually pretty nice that it does that. Let's see. Bread and butter, it was Overwatch. Cool. By relying on interface instead of classes for your arguments, you allow the Liskov substitution principle. Yes, exactly. It lets your code not really care about implementation details. Segfalter, that is perfectly said. You'll notice, for anybody that looked, one of our planned streams that we're going to be doing is a solid principles one, so it should be a good one. The thing that made you realize is there was an awesome thing is that what Brendan is doing now. Stuff like this, it becomes super easy. Yeah, so you'll notice that all I did was I started changing out character into idamageable, and all of a sudden it becomes this useful thing. Let's see, is an ally. So what I could do is say, I could say target So if target is this, then I want it to be able to be used in here. So So I'm going to wrap these inside of parentheses to make this clearer. So this is this section here. So, or it's this and one of these. So I'm going to say target. This is not as nice as I would like. Normally I'd put this should be put in a method. Tau Gaming, I am glad you stopped by too. Have a great one, and thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription. Much appreciated. Have a great day. Yeah, S&B, it's really neat that you can do that kind of stuff. Yeah, what Segfalter said. So target is character. So target is character, and we'll say character. So they're this, and now I want to say character, whoops, character, and character. Yeah, this needs to get this. This is not going to be like this. Karma Lightwing, welcome back. So if they're character and they're either an ally or they're out of range. There we go. Okay, so now the nice thing here is that because we have all of those tests, Yeah, no, Till, we're pulling it out. I told you, we're just gonna make it... We're extracting methods. Just give me a minute. I want to make the test pass first. Don't make me come over there. We're making the test pass first, and then we're gonna fix it. Don't worry. We're making the test pass. Just let the test pass first. If they go red, then we... Okay, look, they're green. See? They're green. The tests are passing. Don't kill me. Yeah, thank you, WorldWake. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Yes, okay. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. And Karma Lightwing, thank you for subscribing. Much appreciated. Please now also enjoy your DevChatter emotes. And anybody that's got them, spam them in chat for the new sub. Welcome. Why you do this right? Thanks, Till. Everybody's running away. This code's terrifying. Yeah, give it a second. We're gonna extract this out. I just wanted to make sure it works first. Make sure it works. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. I want to extract this out. So I'm okay with the target is self, and then I want to pull this out as a Boolean method here. Wait, inline parameter. What does that do? I'm not sure what that was going to do. Oh, it's because I needed this. Refactor method. Something. I'll look at what it is in a second. So there we go. If it's us or something. There we go. Very clear. Isn't that better? See, way better. Just kidding. We're going to name it. Okay, so as a damageable target, let's do if target is character. So I'm going to actually give this an if statement and make it clearer. So if it's a character, then return this or this. So character, there we go. Otherwise, return false. False. Right? And then before I fix that name, let me just run the tests again. Don't worry, I'll fix the name. Just give me a second. I want to run all our tests again. Okay, all our tests are still passing. So now let's give it a good name. So this is if target's not us and should not be damaged. So we'll say should not be damaged, or cannot be damaged. Cannot be damaged. Oh, is valid target. Ooh, that's perfect. Is and is not valid target. Or is invalid target. That's the word we're going for, is invalid. There's a word for that in English. There we go, is invalid target. Great suggestion, Fraggle Rock. Very good, very good. Nice, I like it. It's invalid target. And yes, I'm intentionally doing the two returns because I think this is a little clearer to read. Yeah, so, yeah, I would just have to flip it. As written, it's this one, though. So, I don't want to flip it there, though, so, target is a character, then isn't... Return is a valid target. Yeah, alright, so we'll do it now. It's a valid target. So is valid target if they are not an ally and not out of range. Otherwise, return true. I think that's right. Now I need to go fix my test name still, because our test name's still not right. I don't know if anybody commented about that yet. What am I even working on? Oh, so I'll call you Aluminum, just for the sake of that. But we do a few projects here. One of our main ones is our chatbot that's actually in the chat here, but we do some other things too. It's better with a S&B. So it's whether you hit them in there or not. So I apparently goofed up the logic, which is why the tests are there. But let me back up for a second, just make sure I get that right. There we go. Let me run these tests again just to make sure it was right before we did that. Just do as a target. I always code in English. Still need to learn better naming. Oh yeah. So that is actually one of the problems with internet and programming, is that it is important that we're all using a consistent language, which I know is difficult if English wasn't your first language, because you find it all over for programming specifically, because we so often have to use each other's code. Norwenglish, yeah, I thought that was pretty nice. I assume you actually use that phrase for it. You're really confused now since it takes input fields. I missed what you guys said. All right, so that's good. Let me get this. Let me finish what we're doing here. Then we can refactor this a little bit more. Because I want to get this. I want to make sure we. I didn't leave a do something somewhere, did I? Hang on. Do something. Did I leave any do somethings? Yeah, I did. Deal damage to things. Okay. So deal damage to things should reduce health of things. When damaged by characters. Okay, so I refused to use an language name when I started learning to code in school. That's a very good idea, Till. I'm going through some of your early videos on YouTube, and I've noticed the version of TwitchLib being updated later to a more recent version. What way to send messages to Twitch chat at the moment? Jimmy Welsh, I will have to get back to you on that one. Problems. DevChatter, you're a bit lost on how to send messages in the Twitch client, like how you did in your earlier videos on YouTube. Okay, so if you run with an older version of TwitchLib, it'll work that way, but it's a little different now. And if you just grab our current version of the code, you can take a look at that. So it's actually on GitHub. Our bot's still in here, right? Yeah. Head over to GitHub and take a look at our existing project. So if you look at that code, you should be able to find how we call it today. If you have trouble, there are a couple of TwitchLib people inside of our Discord channel. So some of the maintainers of the TwitchLib project are actually in our Discord. So if you join there, you should be able to chat with them also. Okay. Hang on, what do we see? Do you need of things, since you only can reduce health of things? Till, yeah, but I can actually reduce health of things and characters. Remember, characters are not things, because I used an iDamageable interface, so a character's not a thing. There is no inherited, no inherited type there. And yeah, yes, I try to be pretty clear in my method names. And that's why I use the underscores in my unit tests, because I want to try to get it so that it's very clear what it is. People have different preferences on test names. That's a style that I like, but it's very, very preference driven. So people have a lot of different opinions on what they like for test names. Yeah, yeah, aluminum. Yes, those are the test names. Yeah. Yes, you want your test to be readable. You want to know what failed. Okay, so readable is extremely good. Yep, and yeah, it's a 7 nightmares to try to use words. Yes, Karma Lightwing. Please stick to characters that exist in everyone's alphabets. Makes it, well, at least people that are using, roughly speaking, the same character set, try to stick to the ones that are most common. And Estraza Live. We are doing a programming exercise right now. We are doing this programming exercise right here. So that is actually what we're working on. We are doing iteration 5 of this right this moment. These things cannot be healed. They do not deal damage. Okay, we know they can't be healed because we don't even have a method to try to heal them. They don't even have damage dealing methods, so we sort of skipped this requirement by doing it as that interface that we did. They don't belong to factions, they're neutral. Good. We don't have that concept either. When reduced to 0 health, things are destroyed. Ooh, that's a good question. Are ours getting destroyed when their health hits 0? I don't think they are. But that is a status that we're going to want to have, so is destroyed. As an example, you may create a tree with 2,000 health. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So, thing is going to get prop, and we're going to call it a bool, and say is destroyed. So let's go make our thing should class. So this is going to be based on starting conditions. So like our character should, thing should. And I am going to make this test work the same way as that one. So public void and Alperenkizilakaya, and I apologize for butchering your name, but welcome, thanks for following. Lately most people use double A's. Yeah. So that's actually what I assumed SNB's name was at first. I assumed he was talking about the S-set that's in the middle of Essen, because that is a double S that looks like a B when you actually use an S-set. So that's what I thought it was. I thought it was the SNB. So that was kind of funny. Okay, so things should start not being destroyed. Start out not being destroyed. Start with is destroyed being false. That's what we'll go with. Naming is hard. Naming is hard. Other programming languages that work with languages like Chinese. Till, there are some that use Unicode, so I'll say yes. And I'm Mr. S. I will take your follow to mean that you've been enjoying the stream, so thank you. Much appreciated. So I'm going to make a new thing. And thank you everybody who's watching, whether or not you have clicked that follow button or not. I appreciate your being here. So assert.false thing.is destroyed. So we're going to say by default things are not destroyed. And that test passes. We figured it would because that's a pretty easy one, so I'm not even going to bother with trying it with doing the fail pass thing on that one. What I am going to do is this. I am going to say, whoops, not this one. This is deal damage to thing should. So over here, deal damage to thing should, make it destroyed when damaged to 0. Hey, aluminium, following. Oh yeah, wait. You subbed and did you tell me you subbed and then followed? That's hilarious. 29C incoming. That is not fun. I don't like 29C. Okay, so we're gonna say thing. Health of 1. Character's gonna deal damage to it. And then what I want to say is thing.isDestroyed. Thing.isDestroyed. We're gonna assert that it's true. So we're going to make it destroyed by damaging it when it's at low health. So right now, this test is going to fail, and that's fine. The Nordic summer is the best day of the year. Worldwake, it might be. How warm does it get there? And D4N Coder, hello, welcome, hi. And thank you for the follow. It's finally back to normal here. That's good.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Brutal Swede. Awesome. Thank you for the subscription. Much appreciated. Can we get some DevChatter hype emotes in chat, everybody? Let's spam those things to celebrate our new sub. Please enjoy your awesome, awesome dinosaur holding up his hype sign. Whenever you get excited about code working, you can spam that in the chat. Alright, so here's what we want to do. We want to jump back over to thing, because our is destroyed could really use a lambda expression as its body. So we're going to go ahead and use this. Some fact says that on average per year we get 5 days with more than 25C. Yeah, Worldwake, I am a person that also likes colder weather, but I know some people that disagree with me. So I'm going to say return health less than or equal to 0 as what determines whether or not a thing is destroyed. Pretty easy. Oh, did I have starting health on everything? Guess I didn't. So we'll put that in there also. And I guess we could extract that as a constant at some point if we care to, but let's run all the tests again. So we're going to run all the unit tests, we're going to see what we end up getting. If everything passes, I'm going to commit, and then we can decide whether or not we want to do much refactoring of this. There's definitely some things that we can. So we added things. Added things, which are damageable and destroyable. Okay, cool. That works out nicely. So, I would not be sad if Norwegian disappeared from school and we only had English. Yeah, that'd be a weird one. So I know a lot of people that, like, culturally would love to keep other languages around. And I don't know that English is necessarily the best language to be, like, the only thing people are speaking. It's not the worst language in the world, but it's certainly not the best. Not that it's hard to say what the best or worst language is anywhere. But I do like the idea of having some kind, like choosing a language that everyone in the world learns. I think it would actually be really, really nice for all of us if we could all communicate. Well, there you go, Till. So, some people like it. It's got its issues. One of the nice things, and one of the best and worst things about English is that it includes bits from everyone else's language. It's like, what if we took German, mashed in a bunch of French, and then changed it over the years? It's like, yeah, okay, yep, that's English. Okay, that's impressive. Aluminum, what's your native language? That, Oh, well, there you go. Yep. Yes. Faithon? Just taking a guess on that name, but welcome, thanks for following. Okay, so we can take a look at this code, but let's jump over here real quick to our retrospective, because we just completed iteration 5. What problems did we encounter? We ran into a little bit of issue when we were extracting out that type, because the code that I'd written for doing those character checks wasn't extracted as well as I would have liked. So those pieces where I was suddenly had to do our pattern matching on is character, that I didn't like. What have I learned? Any new techniques or patterns? Not really. And then the last thing is share your design with others and get feedback. Hey, guess what? I already shared my design with others. It's right here. But I am going to toss this code out on GitHub. So why don't we do that? So I'm going to jump over here, DevChatter. Let's create a new repository. And what's the name of this repository? 623. So we're going to say 2018 06 katas? Can I get away with that? Yeah, okay, not the worst. We don't need a description. It'll be public. Can I just push it up from there, you think? Let's try this. Publish this repository to GitHub. Name. 06. Yeah, we'll say 23 because that's when we started it. And what is this? We did the RPG combat. Gotta keep this code private. No! Toss that there. Publish a repository. Let's see if that works. I think it might. Cool. Alright. That is actually really nice if that works. That's fantastic. Holy crap. I can't believe that worked. Alright, chat blew up. Okay, let's see what's happening in chat. Someone's from Austria. Someone feels spastic writing in Norwegian. Yes, the chat's being a little bit ridiculous. I either write okay or I like something and I break it. You agree with part, right? Although I think Norwegian is more beautiful than Danish. French greater than Swedish, greater than English, everything Norwegian, 100%. Yeah, we have a bunch of Scandinavians and Germans in the chat, it would seem. That's totally cool. Either way, welcome to the United States, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the US of A. Okay, so our code could really use some... this code could use some refactoring. Refactoring still. But we wrote it on Saturday, June 23rd. And continued it on Monday, June 25th. Yep, we'll create that as the README. Oh. Coca-Cola Zero? What is this? This isn't even Pepsi. What happened? What happened was I grabbed one of these out of the fridge instead of grabbing one of the Pepsis. So, because I drink them both. Yeah, sorry, Till. Sorry, I have Pepsi downstairs. I can get one. I know. All my regulars are upset because I drank a Coke Zero instead of a Pepsi. Okay, so we got that deployed. I don't know if you were all watching when I did that deployment, but holy cow, was that easy. I just clicked the button inside of this and it just pushed it out. So GitHub Desktop for the win, man. That was fantastic. That was like the easiest thing we've done in a while. I was all like... Anyway, cool. Guys, you just clicked the button and it did it. Yes, I did. That is actually what happened. I clicked a button and it did all the work for me. I mean, come on, guys, I'm not kidding. When I click buttons, I want it to do the work for me. For example, like this. Like, you know, my I-equatable that I didn't have to write. I didn't write any of that code. It did it for me. When you use programming tools, you want them to do your work for you. That's why we use an IDE. That's why we use things like ReSharper. We want it to do all our work for us. Oh, Till, I did not force push anything. It wasn't even pushed. I go away for 2 seconds and the Zelda sound is playing and Brennan is all surprised when I come back. Yeah, Karma Lightwing, exactly. Sorry, next time, Karma Lightwing, I'll do this.
Hey, listen.
That way you know to pay attention. Thanks, Worldwake. Actually, I will say that Brutal Sweet is correct. So Americans might be lazy, but programmers are the masters of lazy. We are efficiency experts. We try to do as little work as possible. So the best programmers don't do any work. And Logical XX, welcome. Thanks for following. Okay, so something else I want to talk to you guys about before we make any other changes to code or anything like that. As a reminder, I want to let you all know that there is actually only 1 day left to vote on when we do our Learn to Code stream. So looks like only one person has voted during our stream, but if you want to... okay, that's fair, humanity is lazy, but we really should be. So I'm going to be doing a Learning to Code stream, so not just one stream, a series of streams. So what I'm planning on doing is having probably about one of my streams a week be spent on easier code. So we're going to be doing beginner level stuff, so simple programs that you might write when you're learning to program in a language. So if you're not normally a C# developer and you already know how to code, you're welcome. Show up. If you're not normally a developer and you're just interested in learning to program, show up. It'll be great. What we're going to do is we are going to actually work in VS Code. So I'm going to make a video that explains how to get set up so that everybody can show up and just be able to attend with things already installed. So I'm basically going to put out an instruction video and tell everybody, hey, go watch this video, follow the instructions, it'll take you 5 minutes, and then you'll be all set to write code with us when we do this. And what I'm going to tell people to do is go out here, and we're going to go to the download section, or click the big downloads button, either one. And actually, we're not going to do that. We are going to click on, where is it? Where's VS Code? Where'd you hide it? Why did you hide VS Code from me? Alright. VS Code. Code.visualstudio.com. I mean, I'm actually going to send people the link. I'm not just going to, Google around for it while I'm doing that. But basically, we're going to send people here. And they're going to download either the Mac, the Windows, or the Linux, depending on what they're in, and install that version on their computer. Once installed, we're going to have them grab the C# extension, things like that, because there are a lot of extensions for Visual Studio Code that help you out with stuff. But the C# one, which I should be able to find by searching for C#, right? Yep, right here. So this is the C# extension for VS Code that we're going to have people bring in here, and essentially it just is going to help you in writing C# code in VS Code. So we're going to get everybody started. It's going to be easy. These are free tools. They're lightweight. They're easy to use. And we're figuring that a good number of junior programmers, and also I'm hoping that we can get some intermediate and advanced programmers in here as well, because I'm sure there will be questions in chat, and I will be answering those, but I'm hoping all of you are willing to assist also, because there is no better way to help you understand something than to help teach it. So I hope you are all here and looking forward to those as much as I am. Right now, I think it is likely that our first one is either going to be on Saturday, the 30th of June, or July 2nd. So that's either I'm going to set it up to just be like right this weekend, or next Monday. So we might be a week away from the first one. We'll take a look at that. Till, yes, I have used the F1 key in Visual Studio Code. Someone actually told me on stream to click the F1 key. I had no idea how nice it was. VS Code is an editor, not an EID, so no... SNB, that is actually a fair point. So VS Code is much more of a text editor than an IDE. Let's see, Rider is greater than VS Code simply because it has ReSharper built in. Yeah, you could say that VS Code works for a lot more than just C# though, so that's another one of the reasons. If you generate code, you can upload as your placement. Logical XX, hello, welcome. Hi. The C# Fritz is traveling in Germany. Yeah, Janiskio, I'm actually kind of disappointed. If I'd known, I would have tried to submit to the same conference. So, if any of you do know conferences over on that side of the world, let me know. I usually submit to sessions that are, over on this side of the ocean. In fact, I actually just got accepted to a session. There's a conference that wants me to show up in October, and I'm not going to be able to do theirs because I am at another conference. So that is a problem that you run into, because you submit to multiple conferences and you're like, okay, hopefully only one of you accepts me, and when they both do, you're like, oh well, okay, I guess I'm choosing one, and I already agreed to go to theirs. So it happens. Oh, it was you, Till. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Thank you for mentioning it. And yeah, so I would gladly visit Germany or, other countries to do tech talks. So the nice thing is they're usually in English. So, and I know English, so it helps me out that way. Logical XX. Yes, I am a reasonably experienced developer. I have been programming for a little over 20 years now. And a good chunk of that professionally. I have a question that I have no answer for. Subject, game engine. A physics thread needs to be fixed time steps. What happens if the logic thread is already running? How to sync? Sorry for being off topic. Logical. So no problem for off-topic questions. People are always able to ask off-topic questions as long as the off-topic is still somehow programming related. I'm not much of a game engines programmer. I'll give you that one right off the bat. I've done a small amount in my career, but it's been over a decade since I've done any actual game engine development. But there might be someone in chat who knows a little bit about it. So what do you think? You have a physics thread that needs to run at a fixed time step. What happens if the logic thread is already running? I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know the programming language that you're running in, or a lot of other questions there, Logical XX. So I think we need a lot more specifics. So I would either recommend that you try to see if there's someone in our Discord that knows more about this stuff, or just check Stack Overflow. So, and see, Aluminum might know. So I do want to mention, if anyone is interested in chatting with me or any of the other people that are here in DevChatter after the stream, the best way to do that is to join our Discord that I just posted a link to. And if you want to check out any of our projects, or are interested in contributing, or want to make any suggestions, head on over to our GitHub. That is the best place to do that. You'll find our projects are all on here. That's where that link will take you, github.com/devchatter. You'll find all those here, including our stream info page. So when I do schedule guests or special things for streams, you'll find that information here. And then we also have a spot for suggestions for future streams and information about that. Mark is duplicate. This chat has been closed because it's too broad. The Stack Overflow meta jokes. Yeah, what is a Stack Overflow? Where you go when your browser refuses. Yes, exactly. Oh, SNB, nice. Yes, we do actually have a skeet command in here. Oh, the Stack Overflow jokes. You guys are hilarious. Alright, so, I think we are going to wrap here. So, I will catch you all on the next stream. So, Tuesday, that'll be tomorrow, is our next stream. So, we're going to start at 2 p.m., so same time that we did today. So that is a little under 22 hours from now, so it'll be 21 and a half hours from now. So set your clock, set your reminders. For anyone who is new and doesn't know, on DevChatter we actually stream 4 times a week as our usual schedule. We stream on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So we have one weekend day. They're all about the same time. We do 2 p.m., noon, and 1 p.m. my time. And if you want to see our schedule, if you're on Twitch, scroll down below and there should be a panel down there that has our schedule, but you can also ask our bot. So I'm at UTC-4 here in Eastern Time in the United States, so I do schedule -4 and it tells me when my stream is right there, but I don't forget when my stream is. But if you forgot when my stream is, that's a great way to check. So there you go. So schedule +2 will get you, for example, Germany, I know, is schedule +2 right now. And the cool thing is, basically all of our Europeans right now, I think, are at schedule +2, except for S&B. You must be in the UK or something like that to be at UTC +1. So you're around there then. We are going to be making that so it can actually you can put in your time zone. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that if you put in something like GMT, but you really meant BST because we're in the summertime, we want to make sure that it corrects that for you. And for example, if you did Central European time, but it's actually Central European summertime, or vice versa, we want to make sure we fix that for you. So that's why that feature's not in yet, is because that part's a little complicated. Is knowing if you tell us the wrong one, what the correct one is, because we don't want to give you the wrong information. So we want to make it so that it would show. So if you were watching in the chat here, let me toss this on screen so you guys can see. It says, it spits back our schedule and actually says at UTC plus whatever. But what we want to do is, if you asked for a time zone, we want to tell you what time zone it was. So for example, if I said EST, if I asked for that, I want it to respond back and tell me the result was in EDT, because that's what it really is. So, fixing it. Yeah, Till. Time in programming. Dealing with time is actually one of the hardest things in programming. Time and dealing with different countries and when they switch between daylight savings time, it's crazy if you've ever looked into it. Anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. Please make sure to stop by. I want to thank all of you. We had an awesome number of follows today, and I also want to make sure that I thank C# Fritz for hosting us. I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't get the host from Visual Studio. We usually do. iKen has Jonas for subscribing. I do crack for a living for the bits. Thanks for following. I'm gonna guess either Lodi or Lodi, and Tau Gaming for the Twitch Prime subscription. Oswin Hop for the Twitch Prime subscription, Karma Lightwing for the Tier 1 subscription, and Brutal Swede for the Twitch Prime subscription. Thank you all. Please make sure to spam your DevChatter hype emotes whenever you're in here. So our DevChatter hype emotes, especially when we're doing fun stuff. So have a great one, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.